On this episode, we learn from others' crowdfunding mistakes, save you money on indie games, and listen as the horrors sneak up behind you in the games we talk about this week. Put your adventuring pants on. This is episode 17 of the Indie Game Riot.
Indie Game Riot! Hey everybody, it's Josh and Jan. This is episode 17 of the Indie Game Riot. I don't know why I'm talking about like that, but, you know, that's what I do. I do weird things because who the hell cares? Really? Right, guys?
Yeah.
Right.
Because you're weird.
Weird. We're weird. Everyone's weird. It's good stuff. But what has been going on with you? Tech went first last time, and so let's go with Rev. Rev, what's been going on?
I'm celebrating an event from home, and I had a really cool job interview. No, so last week I got a job interview. Probably I want to say Tuesday, and it was with their senior engineer, relatively small company, but they seemed to like the idea of Indie Game Riot because that came up in the interview.
Oh, really?
And yeah.
Did they ask questions?
Yeah, he asked a couple of... I was interviewing with a gentleman by the name of Dylan. He was their senior engineer, and we were kind of talking, you know, tech-wise and all of that. It seemed to fit in really well, and he was like, you know, just out of curiosity, you know, what do you do for a hobby? And I was like, well, you know, at the moment I hit people with sticks, and explained medieval combat to him, and then he was like, do you have any other side things that you do? I'm like, well, I play a lot of games, and right now I'm doing this little podcast called Indie Game Riot, and he was like, oh, you do a what's it about? I was like, well, the title seemed like, in my mind, I'm sitting here going, the title seems fairly self-explanatory. So, I also want the job, so I don't think I'm going to be my normal snarky self.
Dumbass.
So, you know, I just kind of explained out the podcast to him, and he just goes, "Oh, that's really cool. So, what kind of games do you guys talk about?" And I was like, literally anything and everything that's
Indie games. Do you understand English?
Well, no, he was
I hope he's
thinking
listening
more,
to this now,
like,
too.
If you are, Dylan, I'm not talking sad about you.
So that'd be cool. It'd be even cooler though if he was like, "Oh, for real, Indie Game Riot? Wow, I love this show." That would've been awesome.
That would have been.
You'd be like, "You're hired."
Yeah.
Right there.
Indie Game Riot gets you hired. New slogan.
Yeah. That's gonna be our next slogan. Indie Game Riot, getting you hired since 2014.
Hired, not hire.
To be fair, yeah, really. To be fair though, I would totally put this on a resume. Like, yeah, I'm a co-host of the Indie Game Riot, which is a weekly podcast. Like, we've done this for 17 weeks.
This would be the 17th week, yes. Well,
that's a lot. Well, no, 18th week.
No, 17th. We've done 18 shows because Indie 3.
Oh yeah, because that week that we missed once.
Did we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You're right. Yep. So yeah, because I had a baby.
Yeah, which is, you know, obvious. You know, Josh having a baby, sitting in the hospital, like, you know. I mean, that usually doesn't happen. So,
still say we should have done the episode from the hospital.
That really, like,
but
every once in a while you just hear a beep.
I do actually put this on my resume, though. I mean, I don't say Indie Game Riot specifically. I just say internet personality or something like that. Yeah. And then when they ask about it, I explain. But
yeah, that's a good idea. I should probably do that. But I mean, like, giving them a link on the resume is always good. So
true.
Yeah.
Good point.
So yeah, really really good interview. I should hear back early, since I haven't heard back at this point this week. I should hear back early next week, and based on what Dylan was expressing to me, I was a better candidate than the first person that interviewed that week or the week before, and they only had one other person interviewing, and they've got 2 slots that they're going for. So
awesome.
come in first or second. Either way, money is money. So
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I like exchanging my time for currency.
exactly.
So, what are you expecting now? Ain't got none of that, sir. Well,
So, how about you, Tech?
yeah, man.
I bit my tongue yesterday really bad.
That's your big news. I bit my tongue.
I mean, yeah, I started classes again. So I'm pretty much just chilling in the game lounge, watching people play games that I'm like, wow, that developer really did a good job on that game. No, it didn't.
And then you should, and then you like throw Indie Game Riot business cards into the air.
Yeah, no, that's something we need to get. We need to get Indie Game Riot business cards. But I bit my tongue. And for those of you who bite your tongue, you're like, oh no, I bit it, and I'm gonna bite it again, and it's gonna hurt really bad. No, I was like bleeding really bad. It's purple right now, and so if I sound like I can't talk right today, it's because I have this big lump on the side of my tongue. That
Actually, you sound better than usual.
Oh well, that's good.
I'm kidding.
Maybe I should have fallen off my bike more often as a kid. I only hit one telephone pole, and it made me never ride by that telephone pole.
One parked car.
Yep, one parked car. Also, I learned this week that Hello Kitty
is not a cat.
Is not a cat. Yeah. For those of you who have been living under the rock, under a rock since the 80s.
Under the rock.
Under the rock, because there's only one. Because if you haven't heard of Hello Kitty, you don't go outside, or you're like a Baptist in the South.
Dwayne Johnson doesn't like Hello Kitty, so you can never hear the news.
Yes, exactly. But apparently, Hello Kitty looks like a cat, kind of acts like a cat, not a cat. And so that's a thing. And I was a little bit surprised. I mean, I'm not a guy who goes around watching Hello Kitty. I remember waking up early in the morning one day before school, like elementary school, and seeing a Hello Kitty show on like Cartoon Network, and I'm like, wow.
I never understood it.
I got it either.
Hello Kitty and the Domo thing.
Yeah.
I never really understood like how they're popular or what they are.
I think it's just like it might be a mixture of one very relatable, cool, cute icons that are perpetrated by the media and heavily funded marketing campaigns to just make shit tons of money.
Oh yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
So
what about you, Josh? Yeah, Transformers. Exactly, Transformers.
Transformers. They were the bane of my toy experience when I was a child.
Yeah. Well,
I never transformed.
Power Rangers were.
I did like Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles. Well, about me, nothing really going on the past week. Tomorrow, though, since it's Labor Day coming up around here, they have a thing called the Capona, which is like it's kind of like a fair, but there's you know the Susquehanna River, right, Tech?
Yeah.
It flows into the Chesapeake, and Rev,
Yep.
I don't know if you do since you're over there, but
I'm familiar with the river.
Yeah, the river flows through the town, Harrisburg here. And they on the riverfront, they always have this thing for Labor Day where they have rides and food and games and all sorts of stuff, and then they have fireworks at the end of the day. I'm planning on going to that tomorrow. I'm interested in seeing how my children, especially my 2-year-old, will react to the fireworks because like we took her to the 4th of July. And it was fine, though, because it was, like, way far back, and she ended up falling asleep halfway through anyway. But this one's, like, right underneath the fireworks, because they're just right across the river that they're shooting them off from. Not even the whole way across. It's, like, an island in the middle of the river. And it's going to be loud. And I remember when I was young, I used to think that the fireworks, when they exploded, would rain fire down upon me. So I hid my intelligent, I don't know, 4-year-old self would hide under a blanket, thinking that would protect me from a fire.
Well, I mean, that isn't too far off if you've been to like one of the like a house party that has mortars, because like it off, and it goes bang, and then everything disappears, and you hear this little pitter patter on the roof.
Little pitter patter.
And you're like, that's ashes. That's a little scary. Maybe this is a little bit more dangerous. I don't think the people who are lighting those should have more beer.
That's why they're not legal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in Pennsylvania. Well, no, not for Pennsylvania.
No, things like that. Anything that shoots up into the air like that is not legal in this state because for that reason. No,
If you don't, so if I drive like 45 minutes north and hit a Phantom Fireworks store, if I don't have a PA license, they can sell me whatever they want.
really? Are you sure?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know, because I had someone in PA go to one of those with a few out-of-state friends, and he was like, "Yeah, I really wanted to buy stuff, but they wouldn't sell to me because I was from PA." But the other guys were from out of town, so they didn't care.
That makes no sense, but okay.
Yeah. It's the same thing with, I think South Dakota has a law like that, where they'll sell you whatever you want as long as you don't live in South Dakota. Yeah.
Whatever.
Fireworks.
Wyoming's very similar, except they just don't care.
Well-
You're like, oh yeah, whatever. Just you want to, because Utah, you can't have kegs, and you can't have. Well, now you can. It used to be you couldn't. And oddly enough, when they removed that law, the number of wildfires that started around the 4th of July magically increased exponentially. They're not quite sure why.
Well, wait, check out this transition. You know how fireworks inject danger into the suburbs?
Holiday
No,
season.
that was a bad segue. You
Shut
should
up.
feel
Shut up.
shame. Indie News Injection!
Are you bored with the same old games?
Yeah.
Why, then give yourself an Indie News Injection.
Thanks, Indie Games.
All right, guys, this week on Indie News Injection. First thing first, it's a bit of a downer. We've all been there. We've all seen it. We've all participated with a Kickstarter, an Indiegogo, or a GoFundMe, or any form of crowdfunding that failed. And, it happens to everybody, or it can happen to everybody. Not everybody can meet their goals. But there's some people that have actually been doing some research into what the best turnaround is if you actually fail your Kickstarter or other crowdfunding attempt. And most of it's anecdotal because Kickstarter doesn't release their own information to the public, but some people have been going around and contacting failed campaigns to kind of get what's going on with them. And there's actually a fairly good chance that if you redo your campaign a month or 2 months down the road, that you will then succeed. And they give a couple of examples, the person like Telepath Tactics for Windows, Mac, and Linux. They were asking for $25,000 and they raised $18,000. They went back a couple of months after he failed, and he was asking for just $15,000 and instead got $41,000. So anecdotally, they say that if you fail a Kickstarter crowdsource campaign, you can redo it, brush up on the things, get feedback from your backers, get feedback from the people that didn't back you, and I'm gonna mention them because they're friends, and I felt really sad. But Avalon Lords, if any of you guys were following, that did not make their Kickstarter goal.
That was a big goal, though.
It was a big goal. But over the course of the month that their campaign ran, they still managed to raise quite a bit in pledges. So, it wasn't a bad thing. Now, I've talked with a couple of them, and I don't know if they're going to proceed, but they seem fairly confident that they're going to be able to continue on with their game. But if they were to rerun their campaign, the best thing is, according to the people that have been doing the research into this, is to get that original group of people that backed you on your failed to back you within the first 72 hours of your new campaign.
Right, and that shoots you to the top. A lot of times they'll feature games that
exactly.
hit that early pledge mark, and I can see how that works.
And so, yeah, exactly. And so they've said that anecdotally, the ones that they have seen, anybody that's reran it and done so has gotten not only above what they were originally asking for, but makes it that much earlier.
Now we have one friend, Jay Tholen, who actually this happened to. He failed his first Kickstarter, and I forget how much was he asking for, like 25,000 or something.
It was something around there.
And then he ended up trying again a few months later, and he asked like 15,000, and ended up getting like, it was actually similar to this one that they're talking about. He ended up getting what, like almost 40,000.
Yeah,
it was just almost 40,000. I think it was like 48, 49. We could be wrong. You can check the page. You know,
but yeah, I mean it works, and it makes sense that you were talking that, because I was wondering when you put this, I think Tech put this in, about how I was like how does that make sense if it's the exact same thing pretty much, but the fact that all the people that pledged the first time usually pledged the second time as well right away, that probably makes a huge difference.
And there's also they also go into talking about how you really set up the Kickstarter. In this case, excuse me, the developer wanted to pay a relatively large amount of money to make sure that all the sounds were perfect. Everything was engineered specifically for this game, down to the button clicks, the attack sounds, the death sounds, the item sounds, etc. And people weren't really into this. They didn't want their money going to something that I guess seemed really minuscule.
That trivial, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can lower costs in certain ways to still get the same product, like using royalty or relatively cheap royalty free, or buying royalties to cheaper sound effects, or spending money on recording equipment and making your own sound effects, which I have done in the past in film, which is surprisingly enough, a lot easier than paying somebody else to do it if money's tight. But trivial things like that, hiring people that you don't need to, spending money on things that might seem like large amounts. As soon as you start throwing around large amounts of money, especially me, like I think, is that going to be worth it? Is that person worth $12,000? Are they going to really pay that much for a server? Like who needs a professional developer for the cover art? You know, or like couldn't you get a friend to do that? So
well, we're talking about a game. I mean,
well, yeah. That I was just trying to give examples going across all Kickstarters, like albums and you know.
But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I think too, it depends on what platform you're using as well, because Kickstarter is the all or nothing, and that's. With the whole, like, you know, all the pledgers coming in at the second time, all at the beginning, will happen on Kickstarter because, you know, they get their money back. But on things like Indiegogo, where you keep the money, that even if you don't make your goal, wouldn't you think that's like a little bit harder to make successful if you tried again?
I would honestly say I don't think so. Because if you manage to make, you know, we'll say that hypothetically I'm running an Indiegogo campaign for my new game. What did we call it last time? Rev's Enormous Penis.
Come to you soon on Xbox Live.
Exactly. So you know, my box of squash, we'll call it that, and so, you know, that's the game that I'm going for, and I'm asking for $20,000 so that I can do the final bits and bobs and all that fun stuff, and say I only get half of that. So in a couple of months, do I need to run another Indiegogo campaign for $20,000, or can I drop it down at that point to, you know, what some apparently might have felt is a more realistic game for my box of price of $10,000? And, you know, if that were the case, I personally would feel that ethically I would have to make it very clear, hey, this is round 2. Last time I raised half of what I was asking for. That's why I'm only asking for this much this time. And honestly, I think if you've got the goods to show, and you've got, you know, and you're upfront about it, and don't do anything super shady, you know, I think that most people wouldn't have any problem with that.
Yeah, transparency is probably the biggest thing in any campaign, because people, like, they're almost all strangers, and they're giving you money,
Yeah.
So if you're transparent, it'll make you more trustworthy. And but speaking from our point of view too, because we keep mentioning that we're going to be starting an Indiegogo soon. And I'm not shoehorning this in. I'm just like legitimate. But we keep talking about we're going to do an Indiegogo soon. I'm personally kind of scared that we're not going to make the goal because it's a decent amount of money, and I'm not giving any details yet because it's not finalized. But we're looking at a decent amount of money, but it's all for legitimate reasons. But with Indiegogo, we get to keep any money that's been donated. So then comes the thing like, well, to get the rest of the things, should we start again? Or because then you could, I mean, I don't know. You could ask for...
As long as you have it prioritized correctly, and I'm not talking about ours specifically, but I mean, you know, if for my box of squash, and I need a graphic artist, and I need an animator, and I need
a musician,
sound effects. You know, if that's the three major things that I need when I'm running my campaign, and Indiegogo gets me half of what it is. Okay, well, which ones are the most important? Well, the animation and the artist is definitely going to be higher up over my sound effects, because without those two, you know, you can play a silent game. I don't have any. Most video games that I play on my TV are muted because I play at 3 o'clock in the morning. So
you say that it was originally conceived for a disability game jam.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, and that's I mean, that's how I think most people do too. Because I mean, for ours, we have it prioritized and everything like that. So in case we don't get it all, but I'm just like, would it be appropriate to go and get the rest of it? Like I mean, if it didn't happen the first time,
I think that really depends on the amount that you really make and what else needs to be done. Especially if you have enough publicity, and although you didn't make your goal, you may have made some money through Indiegogo, and possibly have gotten backing from larger companies who are willing to invest into your idea. Depending on it's unfortunately very open to the possibilities in that case, because what if all you needed was, you know, a certain amount of money, and you could kind of make that work with the fact that, okay, well, we only have, you know, $14,000. And, you know, we can put that to here, and, well, maybe we could have, you know, been a little bit better and gotten a little higher quality stuff, but, you know, $14,000 was okay. And that's just obviously a random estimate. And before we move on, I also want to mention a direction that other people are going as well, other than Kickstarter, Indiegogo, and GoFundMe, is for larger is Patreon. Yes, exactly. And the way that they will run that, I've seen, for the larger projects that are going to take a long time, and the way that Patreon works is not necessarily a monthly subscription, but a per video uploaded through Patreon subscription, where that not only incentivizes people to continuously donate an amount of money to a project which keeps them funded, but also incentivizes the individuals for putting out update videos and other interesting
quality
things.
Content.
Exactly. For the people, because that's how they are actually getting the funding. Because the way Patreon works, if you're not aware, is either you pay per month or you pay per video. And uploading a video every month, or, you know, every once in a while for updates, will then allow you to get the money for that video. People are then charged, and you have a relatively steady amount of money coming in for the project that might take a while, while still keeping your audience updated, and they feel, you know, less in the dark about it. Like, I kickstarted a board game over a year ago called Xia Legends of a Drift System, and it almost didn't make it. Like, in the beginning, it was like, it's not going to make it. It's not going to make $100,000. It made $300,000. It's multiple months off schedule, but every single week, the developer of this game, who's one guy, has been sending us pictures of the progress. He's been sending us links to tracking information for prototypes that he's been getting. I was able to get a copy to take to a convention and show people, and that update was given to people that week. Right now they are on boats, and he has given the tracking information for the boats that are shipping the boxes to Canada and Australia and China right now. And like, that transparency is really good, but you need to make sure that you put that up front before you're like, oh, we reached the goal, time to start updating people. No, you need to update people before the goal is reached, so people know that A, you care, and that you care about the people who are actually giving you a lot of money, because some of these things need a lot of money, and money's important, guys. Like,
and
everybody needs it.
And a note on the Patreon too, right?
Money is important.
The note on Patreon too is that I think it depends on what you're trying to do, because things like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, if there's like a large project that you need a lot of money all at the same time, Patreon's probably not the thing for you. But Patreon is, which I hope to do eventually as well after the Indiegogo, where, you know, if enough people were donating through Patreon, I could possibly do the show full time, and that means a lot better editing, a lot more cool stuff to be done, a lot of extra stuff. You know, things like that we could, and it would feed into. I've already mentioned some of the ideas, like the Enable the Evolution Scholarship Fund that we had the idea for.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea.
So I mean, I think it depends on what you're trying to do, if it's going to be over a long period of time or not.
Yeah, but those are definitely things to think about.
Yeah.
And, so speaking, going from games that have the opportunity to make their goals, is there's something that has gone gold?
There's been a lot of things that have gone gold, and you can get all of them now for a very low price on Steam. Yes, if you have been interested in games like Guacamelee or Hotline Miami, or the very popular Octodad Deadliest Catch.
Stanley Parable, too.
Stanley Parable is another one. I was going to get to that as well. You can
Monaco.
pick all of those up and more. I think there's only one more now that we haven't mentioned. Just Fracked, which, honestly, I haven't heard of.
Yeah, that's the only one I haven't heard of.
You can pick all of those games up until September 3rd for $19.99 on Steam. What? $20.
Now, if you have, let's just preface this with saying, if you have the money to support each of these developers individually, go buy their games individually. I mean, that's if you have just money to spare. But for those of you who want a tight budget, I think everyone completely understands, and I think in the end, developers just really want you to play their game.
Definitely.
You know, when it's all said and done.
Pretty big games like Hotline Miami, same developer that Jay Tholen and Dropsy is being developed under. Stanley Parable, need I say more? It was super popular on multiple YouTube series. Octodad Deadliest Catch, again, obviously, it was
that's
popular.
like a cult classic, that one.
Yeah, cult classic. Guacamelee.
That's an Xbox Live thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's on Steam as well, obviously, but like
yeah,
that was like big on Xbox Live.
Exactly, and although again, definitely you should definitely support the developers here, and if you're willing to pay full price for some of these games, I definitely recommend it. But let's say you're only interested in buying the Stanley Parable, or you only really want to play Hotline Miami. What you do is you could buy the pack, and then all of a sudden you have a bunch of other games that you might not ever play.
Give to friends.
Or give to friends, exactly. So it's not only, you know, sharing the wealth, but also allowing people to play games that they may never have heard of. I had heard of Monaco, but after looking at it through this thing and thinking like, maybe I want to play these other games, I definitely, if I picked up the pack, I'd definitely play that game.
Monaco is pretty fun. I actually have that.
Yeah, Monaco, like I never really looked into it. It never really was anything that I was interested in. But now that I've seen it, you know, it's definitely something that's caught my eye. And the sheer diversity of the games that are here is definitely something to talk about, because Stanley Parable is a adventure.
That's just a game unto itself, really.
It's really
it's a
hard
narrative.
Yeah, exactly. Octodad is a very
silly.
Let's be honest. It's a silly made for YouTubers to sort of play and mess around in.
It's a little bit of a rage game.
Yeah, exactly. Monaco and Hotline Miami, very top-down, skill-based. Figure out what you like and roll with it. Guacamelee. Unfortunately, this game is totally.
It's a standard platformer, pretty much. I mean,
right,
I shouldn't say standard. That makes it sound boring, but it's
like
just a platformer.
Metroidvania action. And then Fracked,
That
which
note, sort of.
it's a musical exploration game. So
I
you
didn't read the description.
I'm sorry, developers of Fracked, if you're listening. I haven't played your game. I haven't heard of it, but now I have. So the packs work.
That's one good thing about having these types of bundles and things like that. It does introduce you to these games that you've never heard of, and then all of a sudden, like, oh wow, it's like a hidden gem, and people are like, hey, I should keep a lookout for this developer's next game.
And you are saving just for those who haven't already clicked buy on this deal yet. It ends September 3rd.
You sound like a QVC host.
Well, we're not getting paid either. Like, this isn't an ad. This is just a lot of really cool games. You are saving $64.95 buying this pack. That's a lot of dosh.
What is a dosh?
Dosh? It's like a
Dosh is money.
Yeah,
I've never heard that.
It's a different. Have you ever played Killing Floor?
Once.
Okay, well, the characters in Killing Floor say stuff like that if you like throw people money. Anyway, that's a lot of money. $64. That's like a new AAA title on a system anymore. Basically, like, you're getting a bunch of games for the cost of a game that you can play in 90p on your PS. But yeah, definitely check it out. If you're interested in any of these games, if you were on the fence with any of these games, I definitely recommend buying the pack. Hotline Miami is very fun. Octodad is, if you like games like Octodad. Stanley Parable, if you haven't seen anything about Stanley Parable, I recommend, like, just pay $20, get the pack, play Stanley Parable, just trust.
So, out of curiosity, do you know why exactly they did this?
No.
You don't.
Not
Okay.
really.
Way to go.
I mean,
there's this little thing. There's this little convention that's going on in Seattle right now called PAX.
PAX what?
PAX
yeah.
Live.
What are you talking about?
What's that? What?
Yeah,
Never heard of
little thing. Never
Penny
heard of
Arcade
it
Expo?
before.
I've never heard of Penny Arcade Expo.
And so they actually they got a bunch of indie developers together, and they went with they actually got a booth at PAX Prime, and they called it the Indie Mega Booth. And in order to they've got 73 devs with 78 games, and they kind of took based on my understanding is the devs themselves went through the list of all the games that were going to be there and said, you know what, these are the ones, we'll throw it in a bundle.
That's awesome. And especially because it is the devs and not just Steam being like, yeah, we're going to put this game on sale.
Yeah, that's cool that they did it themselves, and that's one thing I wish it would happen more often. I like the fact, and I was gonna say, I was like, maybe I should mention the other idea, but we'll save that. But I do like the fact that the idea of devs kind of controlling their own prices and everything. Itch.io kind of already does that.
Yep.
Even free if you really want to. But
and going from developers and conventions celebrating games, we have another thing celebrating games, which is a museum.
Yeah. Seattle EMP Museum is holding an Indie Game Revolution exhibition. So, let me go to the notes, make sure we get this right. The EMP stands for Experience Music Project. So the Experience Music Project Museum in Seattle is holding the Indie Game exhibit. And they're hosting, it's going to feature over 40 different projects. But some of the notable ones, probably the two biggest ones that I've noticed is Papers, Please and Gone Home. They're going to be exhibited. And also, just want to keep an eye on that I have my eye on, that I'm hoping to feature on the show at some point, is Never Alone. And during Indie 3, we talked to, what's her name, Elizabeth?
Yep.
Is that her name? Yeah, Elizabeth, who was really into like the indigenous, like supporting indigenous cultures and keeping that kind of thing alive. And Never Alone is very into that whole thing with Inuit culture.
Did we not already talk about that game?
Never Alone?
Yeah.
I think it got mentioned during Indy 3, but I don't think we actually...
Because I remember like looking this game up either on my own time or something else, and it's just really...
No, wait, it wasn't Never Alone. It was a different game, but about the same group of people. It had like... Do you remember it had like the word that we couldn't pronounce?
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember.
But
yeah.
so you're getting confused with that, but it's
Right.
it's a similar kind of deal. But yeah, there's some notable games that are going to be exhibited, and I think it's just cool to see like something as prestigious as, you know, like a museum. Like, I mean, when you think of museum, you're thinking like art, history, like really culturally relevant things.
Yeah, or old things.
And well, culturally, yeah, old things are culturally relevant.
Things that have been established for a while.
And to see indie games getting that kind of attention, that people are really starting to notice that, hey, this is really, in their words, revolutionizing the industry. And I just want to point out how similar this is to our own philosophies. Indie Game Riot enabled the evolution, enabled the revolution. Same difference. So I like that too.
Well, they make a very good point. It starts November 8th is when the exhibit opens. I assume to give a couple of developers time to finish their games. But they do make a very good point that if you go back to through the history of video games kind of started as indies. Like
True.
Nobody had big publishers and stuff like that.
Stuff on like Commodore 64. That was all just people in their garage.
Exactly, and Zork and Dwarf Fortress, like some of the most popular games today, like the ones that if my parents played video games, you know, looked back on fondly, you know, those were independent guys. Pong was an indie game, you know, so they're taking almost we're now nearing the 3/4 of a century of game development and you know, glorifying that. So
Has it been that long?
Yeah.
it's been 60 years, more than 60 years.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh man.
We're talking about something way bigger than us, Josh.
Man. Yeah, but that just makes me feel ancient.
Yeah.
Rev,
Wow.
you're like you should be dust and bones, right?
Yeah.
The way I look at it is that if the first 60 years is this, just think about the next 60 years, and we're gonna be alive for that. So I'm like, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
What I'd like to see, and this is probably stretching it, but I'd like to see like a really prevalent video game museum that has like like an all the time indie game section. And I'd like it to be interactive, and I'd like it to have, you know, like kind of like not walkthroughs of the game, but like walkthroughs of the history of indie games, and like or maybe the development of some of the more popular ones, things like that. I think that'd be really cool.
Get on it, billionaires.
That would actually be a really cool thing.
Yeah.
Smithsonian, you heard the idea. Now buy it.
But anyway,
So, forward.
any other questions for you guys?
Now, other than that, I'm a little bit disappointed that I don't live in Seattle and I can't go see it. 'Cause that sounds cool.
Well, you know, starting to
Seeing
riot.
this and everything.
Starting to riot.
Start.
Starting to riot.
This week on Starting the Riot, we have a game called See No Evil. It is an isometric dark puzzle game where you manipulate sound to complete these puzzles. It takes place in a world where most of the people in this universe have become willingly blind to the world, and those who can see have been basically cast out from the society that is basically like based around sound, obviously, because if you can't see, you can hear. So you go through a bunch of different levels using different sounds to complete puzzles and spike traps, and everything gets progressively more difficult as the game goes on. And you also have to understand that the entire world is against you because you can see. and you have chosen to see.
I just want to point this out that it would be even cooler if it was, instead of sound-based, it would be smell-based.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Go ahead.
No, like, if you could have a peripheral plug into your computer that has a bunch of different scents that you have to, like, reload. It'd be like a printer. That's going to be the next printer, guys. It's a smell-o-vision printer.
So basically, I'm getting the fact that I'm just a regular guy that's walking around in a universe filled with Daredevil that is trying to kill me.
Well, you're solving puzzles.
Yeah, basically. You're trying to move forward. I mean, obviously that...
Well, Daredevil's trying to kill me.
Yeah, exactly.
Is this a guy, by the way? I thought it was a girl.
It might be a girl.
I may just be because of this ponytail.
It's a relatively androgynous individual. I mean, either way, might be a guy, might be a girl.
Who cares, really?
I'm okay with that, yeah. And like we were talking about in the break before this game, one of the best reviews we have read that Rev pointed out is, Rev, why don't you just read it?
Okay. So this person...
Game.
Yeah, this is one of the best reviews I've ever read, and B, it's my favorite one for this game. The person reviewing this has 1.8 hours recorded playing on this, and the entire review is, and I quote, "It has papers that fly around when you walk over them. 11 out of 10."
I find it hard, though, to beat anything that was in the Stomping Land.
No, that's true.
those reviews are pretty fantastic, yeah.
But like... No, okay, so aside from all joking about, a crappy review, like a humorous but less than useful review, this game looks fantastic, and we can make little jokes about, hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil or whatnot, but no, like I'm interested to see how the sound mechanic applies. Like as you're walking, obviously they kind of took. I kind of get a vibe out of like the Mark of the Ninja, where all of your audio that you create appears graphically, and so like how does it counter between the enemies are walking, so I can see them, but they can only hear me, but their sound also appears there, like their footsteps, and I'm interested to see the interplay is what I guess what I'm going for.
And you also have sort of sound-based attacks to interact with the world, because obviously this is a world developed by people who have no sight or choose not to see. So you have the abilities to manipulate the world around you through sound that you create, sort of like spells or whatever. And that's part of the way that you go about the puzzles. If that clears anything up.
It's interesting. There's how. Sorry, this is kind of. I was looking at the thing. It's just interesting how small everything seems about. Like they have a separate publisher, and it's just one guy that's credited as the developer, Gabriel Prisky, and they don't have like very many features listed like this or anything like that. But everyone who's played it is saying it's one of the best puzzle games that they've ever played.
Yeah, and that's with people who have played it for like this, 20 hours, 16 hours, 11 hours.
Not to mention the soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly.
That seems to be the one thing that everybody's commented on.
And like listening to this game, everything is very much, you feel like you are on the board that you're playing. There are some times when you might play a game where you're like, oh yeah, there's a sound effect, but it doesn't really bring you into the environment that you are in. And I guess we get spoiled with a lot of first-person games where you can look around and be like, oh yeah, this is a room. That makes sense why there is an echo. But with a more simplistic art style like See No Evil has, having the sounds really make the atmosphere that you're a part of, as well as it being very drab and very isolated and cold, really sells the effect that they were trying to go for.
Also, on a slightly side note, have you guys noticed the plethora of isometrics There have been.
Well, I think
What is the deal with that?
I have one word.
Is it just easier art wise? Like
Bastion.
oh, everyone's trying to copy Bastion. I mean, before Bastion,
Really,
it was actually side scroller because there was Braid.
but
Mark of the Ninja. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just weird how isometrics have become. Not that it's a bad thing. I know for Rev, he has this
just that
strange.
the idea that worked. Bastion worked. Let's do something similar, or
What's that?
I think Tech might be having some issues there.
That sounded like someone dropped the bomb on his house. Well, anyway, yeah, it's interesting how isometrics have just kind of taken over, and I know you, Rev, have this weird issue against it. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right, sorry, it's all sorts of things going on.
We've got some weird technical issues at the moment, folks. We apologize. We're working behind scenes while we continue on that.
Yeah.
But no, I've because in large part because of so many games that are coming out that are isometrics, I literally had less of an issue lately, because if I didn't want to play an isometric game, I'm pretty much limited in my game choices at this point. So
you're just succumbing to it.
yeah, it's finally starting to grow on me. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Are you talking?
One thing that before my internet decided to hate me. Yeah, I'm talking. Is that maybe
I think
are just ready for isometrics now.
I think you got some major lag, but it's okay because because I don't think there's too much more to say about See No Evil. Am I correct? Anyone else have questions here?
I would.
It is $15 for a 1-pack and $20 for a 2-pack.
All right.
On Steam, and you can get the soundtrack, which is everybody except Mr. There Are Papers That Fly. Everybody says the soundtrack is bloody amazing.
And so before Tex sneezes and his jaw comes unhinged and his tongue falls out of his mouth or whatever the hell's going on with him, I think
and I die. Let's.
I think we should move on to Peep Show.
Please give all your attention to Early Access.
And this week on Peep Show, we have a game. It is yet another horror game, as Rev likes to point out. But I swear to you, I'm not all about horror. It's just that horror is a big genre right now, especially in the indie games. This one is called Darkwood, a surreal horror experience for the PC, Mac, and Linux, made by Acid Wizard Studio. Darkwood is a top-down survival horror and has... First of all, it's really challenging. There's a choices and consequence system going on. So you make a choice, it has an effect on you, it has an effect on your gameplay, it has an effect of your enemies and everything like that. There's heavy exploration in it. There's perks and abilities that you can, like trees and things like that. There's crafting and just generally a really great atmosphere. It is an early access, but you wouldn't be able to tell by when you're playing it. I think probably as far as the horror aspect goes, there's the storyline is creepy, and then there's like horror. There's monsters out there that try and kill you, things like that. But I think the creepiest part of it, from what I've seen of it, is probably the art of the characters because when you talk to a character, it shows their portrait, and it's kind of like a motion GIF.
Yeah. And
some of those portraits are pretty disturbing. There's one particularly that it was like a little boy who played the violin, and he was trying to like serenade this girl or woman or something in this house. And you go outside and talk to him, and he's like just thinking about it. The hair, there's like little hair sticking out of him, and his skin is like oozy and dripping, and he has like this tiny little mask with like one of those long noses that Italian like Renaissance doctors used to wear. Like,
Oh, it's plague docs.
yeah, like he had one of those, like, but it's like super tiny. Like it covered like the center of his face, but it covered enough to cover his eyes and nose and everything. But it was just everything. The proportion was just disturbing. It was just all disturbing. It's hard to see. I don't know. Maybe I can find a picture. Note to self when editing: find a picture to put on of the guy, because
just flash it very shortly, just to sort of like bah, right there. That's it. That's all you get. Just a little frame.
No, it's when no one's expecting it. It's like when it's like a completely different subject. Then, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like earlier in the show, you're gonna already see it and be like, "What the fuck was that? What are you guys doing?"
Exactly.
It's kind of what this game is like, actually. And for a top-down, like, I was looking at him like, Josh, did you seriously just pick a top-down horror game?
And the first thing that you think of when you think of top-down horror games is just a shoot 'em up, right? Not a shoot 'em up, but you know what I'm saying. Like it's like you just go through and just blast everything away, because there's tons of games like that. But this is not that. As a matter of fact, you barely do any shooting because first of all, it takes a while for you to even get a gun. And second of all, when you do, its resources are extremely limited. There's a heavy learning curve. It's not so much learning curve like Terraria or Minecraft, but you really have to figure out. It doesn't hold your hand. It like briefly mentions don't be outside at nighttime because you will die, and it says that like once, maybe twice, and but it doesn't tell you, when you're in a house, you got to barricade the windows because they will crawl in and come after you, things like that. So if you like a challenge, this is definitely a game for you as well.
Yeah.
And
go ahead.
Oh,
Does it have any like roguelike features to it, or is it very much more traditional in that?
No, this is traditional. I mean,
Are you sure?
Yeah.
You sure about that?
Okay. You're gonna point. I know it says roguelite, but I don't really. I disagree with their own explanation, at least from what I've seen. Because roguelike to me is, it's difficult and you die, and things carry over, right? To your next gameplay.
Okay, so rogue the roguelikes are more about the things non pre-programmed things. It's not Mass Effect where you go to you go to City 1 or Planet 1 and you do X, Y, and Z, and then you go to Planet 2 and you do A, B, C, and then you like no. It's you get stuck down. Here is your house. Cool. Your house is different each time, and the enemies that you face at different times. Like that's kind of what they were going for in the whole roguelike genre. Is that you literally have it's randomized chance.
I see. I see what you're saying with that. It is randomized as far as every time you play, but I still kind of disagree just simply because it's not permadeath.
Well, but permadeath's not necessarily a requirement for a roguelike.
But that's what I'm saying. Like it's not permadeath. So why would you start another game unless you're either unhappy with your current game or you've beaten it and you just want to play again?
The challenge, why not? I mean, like, I see what you're saying. But at the same time, like, have you never played a video game and been like, okay, as soon as I die, for example, back at the heyday of my Halo 1, Halo Combat Evolved days, I would challenge myself on Legendary that if I got shot, not even killed, just if I lost any shield or health, I had to restart the level. Do you have any idea how difficult that is and what a challenge that adds to a game? No, I ended up giving up on that challenge. So. but it is that kind of level of adding a challenge to things that if I'm playing this game, which already I'm going to have issues with because creepy and stuff. I was looking at some of the concept art, and yeah, it's definitely creepy, but. For the challenge, okay, so I got to level 27, and all of a sudden my shit falls apart, my life gets weirded out, and my character dies. I may not want to proceed towards the ending.
Well, that's what I said. Like, if you're not happy with your current game, but
I think I can see where Rev's going with that, because this does have a lot of choice in the matter, where your decisions of what you do affect the game in front of you,
Right.
that you are going towards. And so if you don't like the direction that it's going, you could either reload an old save or just completely start anew and take a completely different direction. The biggest hesitation I have is with mechanics like that, because whenever a game implements you could be good or you could be bad, or everything
are you
that
a
you
boy
decide,
or are you a girl?
exactly, like everything that you decide on, whether you realize you're deciding on it or not, changes the game in some way. And that's why I had problems with games like EG and what's the other one, the really popular side-scrolling shooter adventure game, Cave Story. I had huge problems with Cave Story because it's an amazing game, but it's like, well, at this point,
Well,
I need
that's
to
something
figure out
completely
the ending
different.
that I want, and then do the things. Well, yeah, it is different because they are, generated like non.
Well, that's like you're talking about multiple different endings. This is like you're creating your own story just straight out by the choices that you make. But I mean, I see where the roguelike come in. So you're right about that, Rev. But I still have a hard time putting it into that genre with the rest of the roguelikes that I'm familiar with.
No.
But I see where this comes in. I still consider it more of an adventure / survival horror, with bits of crafting and everything like that into it. But well, go ahead.
Okay, but I was going to say, like, ultimately, I mean, if you think about it, never mind. You came around to my way of thinking. I'm not going to keep beating you with the roguelike I'm right stick.
And it also mashes RPG into it with the perks tree. And basically, from what I've seen of that, is the perks actually have pretty heavy consequences as far as your game goes too, because you get a perk, it boosts an attribute. The second perk that you get, and by the way, you get these perks by finding mushrooms, shoving them into a syringe, and then injecting yourself with them, and then having a fever dream before coming to, and choosing
like
your perk.
BioShock.
But anyway, the second perk that you have to get, you choose an upgrade, but then you also have to choose a negative effect. So I mean, for instance, things, and usually it comes in opposites, as far as pairing goes. You can have a much more wide field of view or a longer field of view, because part of the game is if you're not looking in a certain direction, you can't see what's there. Like it'll gray it out. Or it'll make the animals, which are animals that will attack you, less aggressive towards you or more aggressive. It'll boost your health, whatever, anything like that. But then there's also the negative effect that you have to choose as well.
Okay.
And it is currently, again, early access, so it's actually, in my opinion, I mean, generally speaking, early access, $15 or more is pretty steep for an early access game. However, much like the last early access game, last episode we talked about Invisible Ink, this is a game that you can't even tell it's early access.
I actually, looking into it, I had forgotten that it was early access. I'm like, oh, we're reviewing a game, an actual full game. All right.
Yeah, you can't even tell. So $15 for this is a pretty good deal in my opinion, even though it is early access. So if you have $15 to spare and you like this kind of game, I would definitely suggest it. Any other questions?
Not really, no.
Not really. Just looking at the art, it's creepy, it's eerie. We've talked about what it's going to be on. What else? They did ask in their facts, can I monetize videos of me playing Darkwood? And their answer, of
Hell
course.
no. I mean, yes. So there you go.
I think this would be a fun game to let's play.
Yeah, definitely let's play it, guys. Give it some publicity, get the game growing. The bigger the game gets, the more cool updates they'll do, since it's in early access. Again, much like Invisible Ink, I don't know what else they're going to do with this, but whatever else they do with it is probably going to be even better. It's going to be pretty awesome. So just keep it growing. Now, You know what is not a horror game and does not cost $15. And that game that I'm talking about is going to take place in Free Fun after this.
All right, and on Free Fun this week we have Fenotopia or something like that.
Phonotopia? Phonotopia.
Phoenix Utopia.
Phenotopia.
Yeah, Phenotopia. This is actually a game on Newgrounds, and I want to thank Josh for finding this one because as we were talking before the show, it's got Tech wants to sink hours upon hours into it, but he's being an adult and attending school and working all that fun stuff. Yeah. So he doesn't have the time to, and it's been literally hot as testicles on fire at my place lately. So my laptop is overheating relatively quickly.
Have you had experience with that?
Testicles on fire? Not personally, but I've seen others with that issue.
Fantastic. I want to see.
So the art style on this is it's very much a kind of a throwback to like imagine Chrono Trigger if it was a side scroller, and you kind of get the idea of what it's like. And it's a flash game. It's not too resource intensive. It's nothing super amazing, but apparently it is many hours long. Yeah. It's a full-fledged RPG.
It does have a save feature, so don't worry about it. Because most people think flash games no save. They gotta play it all at once. It does have a save feature, as long as you're enabling cookies, I believe.
Yeah, and I've always found that games that are on a browser that have a save file that are like that know you're gonna need a save file and have had time put into them are worth it.
Yeah.
I actually the biggest regret I have every day. Not every day, but like every once in a while, I remember there's this shmup that I played on Newgrounds years ago that had a save. I played it for like 6 hours one day, saved it, and forgot what it was. And it was so much fun, and there was so much story and so many awesome characters. And I just want to keep playing, but I can't find it. So play this game. Don't let it don't lose it. It's special.
Well, see, the bonus to doing games like this in Indie Game Riot is that we always have a physical record. Like, I keep going back to earlier episodes and being like, oh yeah, I remember I downloaded that. I never got around to actually playing it. So, but no, this one was written by somebody named Quells. The artist was Marshmallow Pirate. And the music was done by Silly the Willy and Cruise B. And this is basically somebody has a mysterious force has abducted the villagers of this little village. And you play Gale, a loyal citizen, and you survived it. And armed with a trusty stick, you go out and punch frogs and solve puzzles.
Who doesn't punch frogs?
I don't know. Crazy people, that's who. So yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. It does allow for a 360 controller support. So if you got one of those, you can plug it in. But it was designed off of your arrow keys and ZX and what was the next one in my keyboard? C. So I'm actually pacing around my laptop as we're doing this.
You have to go to the bathroom? You sure?
No. It's like a phone conversation. Like I don't sit still while I'm talking to people on the phone. I pace, and like when I'm talking about something that's cool, I get excited about it, and I got to stand up, and I just kind of like walk back and forth. And, yeah.
So if you're going to take anything away from this segment, Phenotopia gives you ants in your pants, and
yes.
you should be extremely excited for that because it's like an indie game, a cheap indie gamer's boner. I think that's the tagline they want to put on that game, right? I think so.
Yeah, if they're not okay with it, I am.
So again, Newgrounds.com, Phenotopia, free, and they even if you don't have a Newgrounds account, first of all, get a Newgrounds account. It's free and it supports the site. Newgrounds has been around since like '99 or something like that. I believe it was '99, and they've they're one of the few sites that don't always they encourage these kinds of creative games, as opposed to something like Armor Games where it's like the same tower defense game that you've played a million times over. So get an account, vote for the game, and vote it up. You get achievements and scores and put on your profile and things like that. And of course, you can send messages to the author and telling him how freaking awesome it is. Great. All right. Now, anything else to say about Phoenotopia?
As soon as this is done, and probably tomorrow, if I can get some time away to myself, instead of doing what I usually do to myself, I'm probably going to be playing this game.
Better than
You heard it here first, guys.
Phoenotopia, better than masturbation.
Yeah.
That's their tagline right there. This is full of fantastic quotes, but unfortunately, the fantastic quotes are coming to an end, as is the show. This is the outro, my friends. But before we let you know how to keep up to date with future shows and things like that, let me tell you, first of all, those of you listening on a live stream, you can't hear, but on our recorded versions we always have background music. And let me tell you, those of you listening to the recorded version, if you love the music, the guy who made this music, or girl, I don't really know, the name is Jen Klops, and you can find them on the link in the description, and go check that out. If you are an indie game or indie video game musician, or even or indie game developer, contact us. Or if you know someone who is one of those things, contact us, and we could feature you on the show, give you the shout out, send some traffic your way, and we just love featuring awesome talent. Again, we've mentioned it a couple times earlier. Before I give you the contact information, we are planning on starting an Indiegogo, so please keep that in the back of your mind, and maybe save up a little money and help support us so that way we can make a better show for all of you, and of course,
a better experience.
Better experience, and to keep up to date, because we're gonna keep updating people about it. To keep up to date with that, here are some links for you. First, if you don't listen live, or if you're listening to the recorded version, we have a live show just about every Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, approximately. And you can listen to us live on hitbox.tv/JoshandYa. Those of you listening live, you can watch our recorded version on youtube.com/JoshandYaGaming. That, of course, has the background music and game footage and cool little video bumpers that I hope they upgrade using the Indiegogo campaign. And you can also keep up to date with us and talk to us through Twitter. Our handle is @IGRPodcast. Facebook.com/IGRPodcast. You can check us out there and talk to us there. We also have a subreddit, reddit.com/r/IndieGameRiot. Our website for the time being, which will hopefully get upgraded using the Indiegogo campaign, is igrpodcast.webs.com. There's a contact form there. You can send us any kind of message that you want through that, or you can just email directly to joshandyagaming@gmail.com. I mentioned the Reddit, brought to you by Domino's, Enable the Evolution, Start the Riots, whatever. I got all that. Anything else?
Nah.
No?
No.
Wow.
It's a good show, guys. I mean, what can I say?
Wow. I think that's the first time in the history of the show that no one's ever had something to say about my outro.
Well, it's because you said it already.
It feels good. It feels good. Good job, me. High five. There you go. Well, I think this is a good time as any to say goodbye.
Catch you later, guys.
Tech. So, did he seriously drop? Well, that's his goodbye. Everyone, blow up his Twitter. That's Tekido_ on Twitter. Go blow it up and say how much his jerky is for just hanging up on you all. Toodles!
goes around smelling old people?